Bonjour everybody. I just thought I'd do a little intro to the video I've just done because I realised I hadn't actually shown my face throughout the whole thing, but I'm just gonna, well, I've already been, but the video is all about me going up to another area of Morning Hill that I've not been up to, and then looking down onto Hamsey and explaining a whole load of the history of the stuff that I've been talking about: Beowulf, the Templars, Mealla, AL, the Romans, Roman port wall, the old sea. It's just about a 15-minute explanation of a whole load of stuff that I don't think people have sussed out, so it'd be really great if we can get some people to listen to this and then start looking into it, because I'm certain I'm correct about this stuff. I really am now. It just like can't be right about everything, but I'm pretty sure that majority of what I'm saying is right. Oh god, it would just be great to get somebody to get some interest and look into this stuff further, because these are just incredible discoveries, and I hope you enjoy them too. So on my way, already been, but you know what I mean. Zoom in. So there's the river, and that would have flooded out the entire lower section of that plain. So bring it up about 10 feet and imagine that whole area now filled with seawater. So it would have come up about halfway up this slope, and then over here, that right there is Hamsey Church. Can't get in very close. Right in, so there's a little barn just to the right, there's a big tree, and then just above it you can see the castle parapet, and then just to the other side of that is a kind of steep bank, which I am assuming was once a Roman port wall, and this Hamsey was once Ipwein's fleet, which became Ypwein's float in the Saxon period, and then I'm wondering, I don't know, but I'm wondering if it also then became later on changed to a place called Macredasburn, but that could be somewhere else in the area, or not here at all, I don't know. But these are suspicions I have. So Ipwein's fleet, I think, then became Ypwein's float, which then became Ham, which then became Hamsey. So we're looking through centuries and centuries as it changed hands and the Romans departed. And that's what I think, is that the Romans used this port where that wall was, and they may, this is pure speculation, but I wonder if there was a Roman bathhouse somewhere around where that barn is now, or maybe a bit further to the right, nearer where the church is, because these hot springs are popping up, and I have seen mists rising from beneath the foot of the mound. And then when you go to the Beowulf legend, I know I've spoken about that a lot, the area where the dragon lives is hot with deadly fires. So I think that, you know, that's might be because it's from a hot spring, and it would steam in the cold temperatures, and it was a lot colder back then as well. During their period, there was like I think a small ice age kind of hit around, I'm not really sure exactly when it started, but once the Thames started freezing over, it was brutally cold. So that like area, I don't know if it was like that during the 800s, which is when Beowulf lived, 825. And Hamsey is where Aethelstan held his court, King Aethelstan. And then there's this charter that explains, you know, go to the boundary of Beo's home, to the Blackberry thicket, and from there you go to the Greendale, which is the Grendel. You know, these are all the links. And then I'm guessing that the Romans brought in the Komodo dragons alongside elephants, tigers, lions. We know they brought them in. We also know that Tiberius had a serpent who was eaten by ants. That's documented. It's a random thing. We don't know whether that serpent was just a snake, but they used to call them worms or serpents, the dragons. And I wonder if the Romans brought them in, I think Septimius Severus, I can't be sure, but the reason I think it's Septimius Severus is that he is known in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle to have built a wall which went from sea to sea and was made in the defence of the Britons who lived further upstream. And I literally think that right where I'm looking here is where that bridge was, crossing that part of the river channel, and that then you can see the wall, it's like, looks like a bush. That did then get turned into a railway line bridge, which was then demolished. At some point it collapsed during some flood of the area, but I wonder if it was built on old Roman foundations, or if they totally rebuilt it, or if there's any kind of sign of that old bridge area. I suppose you could dig, you're bound to find some old block work, because you couldn't have built that out of flint and mortar. That would have had to have been built out of blocks. A bridge, a Roman bridge crossing that span. But it'd be nice to find some of the old pictures of the bridge when it was in use as a railway. So if anyone knows of any of that, that would be fantastic to see some of that, because I wonder if those, even if that was built on top of some old block work, as we constantly do whenever you're looking at this old kind of ancient stonework. It seems like the oldest, biggest blocks are at the bottom, then there's some repair work done, and then there's another layer and another layer as we go through the centuries. But yeah, I'm wondering if the Romans hid the treasure of Britain. It's documented in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. They hid some of the treasure under the earth and they took the rest off into Gaul. And then later down the line, Beowulf found it, having come over here. I don't know whether he was born here or not, but we've got, this is Mealla's home, and Mealla was the brother of Ael. And Ael were the first Saxons to come over here. So, you know, you could kind of think that perhaps they were travelling to and fro. Sorry about that. Yeah, that they were travelling to and fro the whole time. You know, they might have been crossing the ocean constantly. And when you listen to the Seafarer poem in the Book of Exeter, it kind of tells you that they were doing it. You know, I think he even mentions that he's been to sea 100 times. You know, and he's always nervous when he goes off. It's a stunning poem, really is. Anyway, I'm going to climb this next area. You can imagine there was a big old building up there. I mean, for a burial mound, this would be impressive, wouldn't it? You know, it may be that some of these aren't burial mounds, they're just natural pits that have been dug out and then used as buildings. But these places are documented as Anglo-Saxon burial grounds. There are 40 of them all over the South Downs. I think I've shown you one other, which is up on Ditchling, Jack and Jill Windmills, it's near there. So there's one other area just like this, but there are another 38 out there, and they're all on the South Downs, which sort of tells you how big the Anglo-Saxon presence was here and where they lived, which was right here. So these are the ancestors of Beowulf and the Mercian kings. And then it's interesting because, oh wow, here we go, we've got a better view of the whole area now. So there you can see the river running around the promontory, and it used to be a promontory before, in 1752, something like that. The Hamsey Cut was made, which turned it into an island. So when you're reading things about it being a Saxon island, that's utter nonsense. It was never an island. It was a promontory of the mainland surrounded by the sea right there. And that's important because in the Beowulf text it says they knew a place nigh to the watery waves. And the other thing that is very important is that they constantly, he refers in Beowulf to the place they are as the seat, repeatedly. So he says they passing by the seat, and then after he's killed the dragon and he's dying, he finds a place with it, and it's a seat, but it's not sort of phrased in a way to make you think he's just found a seat to sit on. It's kind of more important than that. And then the word seat is kind of like it's the seat of nobility, and we know Aethelstan held his court there, we know that, and it's Ham, so that's even referenced in that charter where he's giving the land to Wulfgar, who is also in Beowulf, Wulfgar, and if they were travelling back and forth that would make sense too. But yeah, we know that he was there. I've forgotten what I was saying now. Aethelstan. Clove Show. So yeah, there's a whole lost area of Anglo-Saxon meeting places called Clove Show, and no one's been able to find out where it is. Well, it's right there, and it's called Clove Show because of the way the sea went around it. And it's either that is my most likely thinking, is that it's because it was on a promontory of the mainland, the sea went round it in the shape of a horseshoe, a cloven horseshoe, or they were, I don't think it's completely unique to here, but oxen were shoed here, so and they had a cloven hoof, and they used it to dig out the marshy land that was sort of like getting drained because it was too hard for the horses to do. I think they probably had Saxon gypsy cobs, which are quite small, kind of pony-like, beautiful horses. They're gorgeous. They got long hair and kind of like droopy shoes. They're gorgeous, but they wouldn't have been able to plough the ground, so they ended up shoeing oxen with these kind of like two-part horseshoes, which were cloven horseshoes. So it's there or that, but that, my friends, is Clove Show down there, and possibly at Poinsfleet. And possibly the place that Beowulf died, and possibly the place where the Templars hid the treasure at the end of 1307. And there's a ton of evidence if you look through my other videos. Look up Peter de Melendonus and Roger de Melendonus, and you might start understanding what I'm talking about. But yeah, that place right down there has seen some history that has been documented, and I wonder if Beowulf wasn't even written there by somebody like Aethelstan, or maybe one of Aethelstan's scribes. Yeah, it's incredible. So at the end of the Mercian reign, Mercian supremacy, I think they call it, Aethelstan then came in and started taking over, and it's exactly then that I think that Beowulf was written, and that's the reason that it's Christianized, is because it kind of exactly came at the time when the pagans here were being Christianized by Aethelstan. So it doesn't need to have been turned into a Christian novel or given Christian bias, because that's actually what was happening right then and there. So that's really fascinating stuff. That kind of ends that argument. Well, so many, and if I can get an archaeologist, if I could just find one that wasn't so certain of themselves, so arrogant in their knowledge or their understanding of the past, and just could consider it, they'd eventually understand that everything I'm saying is true, and that these things really need looking into. It's like incredible archaeological discoveries, I mean, just ridiculously incredible, and they're just being ignored by everybody I speak to, and it's getting highly irritating. So I'm pumping this out myself as much as I can, but it does get exhausting trying to kind of talk to people who just they just want to belittle you because you haven't been to the same university and read the same books as them. But that's just because they haven't seen this stuff doesn't mean that other people can't, like me, for instance. Yeah, I just think there's a certain level of arrogance in academia, and they've been, it's like, well, I studied it for 2 years, so therefore I'm the master of all knowledge. It's like, yeah, I've been studying this my whole life, longer than you, my friends, and I've been looking at things with open eyes, not with a closed view, and with possibility, and not taking everything as fact. Most of what's written in books is just opinion. Most of what I'm saying is my opinion, but it's based on huge amounts of evidence, written evidence of the history that we have. And it'd just be a shame for this to be ignored. It's such a cool thing to have found, and it would really be great to have some kind of like new Sutton Hoo thing for us all to be excited about and come see. And it's quite a cool place. I can't believe I've not been up here before. But you can imagine that over there, that flat top over there would have probably had a building on it, so would have this one that I'm standing on. Anyway, I don't even say hello, hey. Well, I thought I'd come up here today and try. Lost control of my gimbal. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed some of that and understand what I'm talking about, and I'll hopefully speak to you soon. Ciao.